Lifestyle Pirates with Big J and Adriano.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Lifestyle Pirates. How are you, Mark?
Very well, thank you. Thank you, gents, for asking me to come on. It's great to be
Thanks for coming
here.
in.
Thanks for coming in, mate. And it's your wife's birthday, I understand, as well.
Yes, and there's no chance that she's going to listen to this, so I can tell you the absolute truth without fear of getting in trouble.
Yep.
So when we booked this,
Yep.
I was like, "Oh, that's your birthday, honey. What are we doing?" Nothing. It's fine. You know. So of course now it's like we're doing lunch.
Yeah.
10 people at our house. What I should have known is when she said nothing, what she meant was, "I've got nothing planned."
Yeah.
Mark, you should have something.
Yeah.
I wasn't smart enough to pick that up.
Yeah.
How long have you been married?
I think 15 or 16 years.
Mate, you should know this stuff. You should know this.
I know,
Do you
right?
want a card? No. It means yes. Do you
Yeah.
want are we doing presents this year, sweetheart? No. That means yes. Come on now.
Yeah, I've got nothing organised, so please do everything.
So I think that, what are we doing for your birthday? I've got nothing organised. I thought that meant we were doing nothing.
Yeah.
What that meant was, so you
Oh, how
should
wrong you
organise
were.
something. Anyway, but I've been a good boy this morning, so we've got a bit of extra time. It's
Well
okay.
done.
Nice.
Well done. Well, thank you for coming along. We are joined here by Mark McInnes, who, mate, you're an author, you produce your own podcast, you're a sales consultant, sales trainer. Our paths have kind of crossed in that sales relationship game, which we'll certainly come back to. But look, I've got to be honest with you here because we have an anomaly with the three of us. So both of us are sales guys. Adriano is not a fan of salespeople at all. So
Thanks, John, for putting me under the bus there.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Is that a rose between two thorns or a thorn between two
let's go.
roses?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a prickly thorn. Just a prick, really.
What was your question on that?
Well, look, it's not that I dislike salespeople because I think that's too general, and I'm going to follow that up with a very general statement. See, sometimes I just feel like it's just a little bit too put on with a salesperson. You know, it's always like, maybe it's just the salespeople that I've met, but it's always a little bit too rigid and fake. And I don't know, when you go in it, like they go through this road that, you know, the road to sale and all this, 10 points that you have to point out and all this crap, because I'm in the automotive industry, right?
Yep.
So for me, when I see salespeople in the automotive industry, sometimes I think it's a little bit too dry and too clinky, too sterile and just, not very organic. So when I hear someone's in sales, I'm like, I just realised people from my work might actually listen to this. Sorry, guys, you guys are all good. But yeah, like sometimes it feels a little bit too put on, like just be natural, drop shoulders, like it's just casual. Yeah, some people are just a little bit too...
It sounds like you've had
Too
some really
cliche.
bad experiences with salespeople.
Yeah, so please educate me, guys.
So let's get into that because you've done sales your whole life, haven't you?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
What got you into sales?
What got me into sales? So I was actually in the army and they wouldn't let me get out. Long story, but until I had a job. And so anyway, I ended up finding a job as a disc jockey. I noticed you've got some turntables there. And
Nice.
and within 3 weeks, next thing I know, I was running the Coogee Bay Pavilion.
Yeah.
And it was my job to not only do DJing, but get people into the inn, so I became the promoter as well. I can barely remember how quickly this happened, but it was like inside the first month. So next thing I know, I'm trying to drive people off the street into the club, doing the old UK sort of spruiking sort of thing, and managed to do a pretty good job of it. And then from there, just realised that I was pretty good at convincing people to do something. I had high levels of enthusiasm and was able to transfer that enthusiasm to get other people to take action. So I figured, okay, that's what I'll do after the military.
Wow.
But I only got the DJ job because they wouldn't let me out unless I had a piece of paper that said I got a job. And
DJ was good enough.
And the Australian Disc Jockey School said guaranteed job if you paid $300 to do a turntable course or something like. That's all I need.
Happy days.
I need a ticket out of here. If I pay $300 and I get a guaranteed job, I'm out.
Yeah, nice.
So that was it.
So more importantly, what tunes were you playing back then?
Back then it was pretty commercial. So at those sorts of things. But I ended up being a DJ right through till about 2003.
Right.
I spent quite a few years DJing up and down Oxford Street, and we just basically played what we would call happy house, garage, that sort of stuff. It's not too crazy, 132 beats per minute.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff by Full Intention, Happy Clappers, that sort of stuff. I don't know, Defected Records. I don't know if you know those guys.
They were awesome.
Yep. Eric Murillo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Really.
And you still have a spin every now and then?
No. So I actually gave all my records to a good mate who has got the full setup.
Right.
Because I just got sick of moving them around, and people were coming. Oh, can I still have those two? No one can find those. Can I have those 5? And it was just felt like it was getting split up. So I just went, Aaron, take
the lot.
You've got to take the lot, but you can't get rid of them.
Yeah, nice.
So every time I go to his house, it's like, let's get the tunes out.
They'd be worth some serious coin now, records, because I think some of the vinyls, I've got price tags on them from here, like $20 for a single.
Is that right?
Yeah, it'd be worth some serious coin.
It was $2 off a DJ discount.
Really?
Yeah. Wednesday nights I used to arrive at One Stop. So yeah, if you're a DJ, you got $2 off a record. Great.
$2.
Great saving.
$2, Jesus.
Oh, when you're buying 15, 20.
At One Stop,
yeah.
with Johnny's at One Stop.
Yeah. And Jules, do you remember Jules?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, legend.
Big Jules.
Yeah.
At Central.
Yeah, you used to walk around and I got this one. Yeah.
You knew you were good if you're allowed behind the counter.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah,
exactly. When you play the record behind the counter.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, love it. Wednesday nights and new records used to come in.
All of us reminiscing.
It was a good time.
When we were able to DJ to crowd rather than to a screen.
Exactly. Yeah. Now I've just got a mirror in front of my decks. It's not a good look.
I think COVID's been great because I've been able to catch up on so many DJs that I haven't seen for such a long time, whether they be Australian or overseas, on Facebook.
Yeah, because I've got time.
I've got very low attention span, but I can see Andrew James, who's somebody who's really good here in Sydney, and you can see Crafty Cuts, some of the big guys from overseas. You see them pop up on your Facebook feed and you're like, oh, listen to 10 minutes of this, and okay, I'm bored. That's it. It's so much easier than having to go somewhere.
I know, right? Yeah.
we were having dinner the other night, and there was so Sonny Fodera and MK were doing this set that they had recorded on a train going around this loop in Germany.
Oh, right.
And it's only one carriage, but they're literally just spinning tunes back to back with each other, and then people behind them on this train, they're hanging on, just loving life.
Yeah, and it was a public train.
It was so cool.
So it came to the platform and the doors would open and you'd just see, commuters just stunned. And then some people would be like, mate, I am on. I just think, that's never happened to me. I've never just, a train's come on, bang, opens up, Sonny Fodera's there. I'm like, from Defected, mental.
Yeah.
We need to do that here, but
Well, we've got cruises, harbour cruises. That's like the Sydney version of that, isn't it?
We've done that a few times.
Yeah. It's good fun.
So how long did you got into sales? And I guess we're going to do your journey kind of back to front because I want to talk about your book, which has just come out. But there's so much to talk about before then. So how long are you in sales before you then go into the sales training side of things?
Oh, okay, probably 20, 25 years, something like that.
Right. So, and what took you? What was the piece there that you went, this is now what I want to do?
The sales piece or the training piece?
The training piece.
So working with somebody who we know, I worked with that organisation for a very long time. Mm-hmm. Just got to the point where for 10 years and realised that part of being a sales manager requires you to be very, very good at managing people, and I wasn't. Mm-hmm. But I loved it. So it's that typical, get your best salesperson and then promote them into a position where they're incompetent.
Yeah.
Right? So I love sales and I love the processes and the systems and the psychology behind sales. Mm-hmm. I really hate managing people.
Yeah.
Because they just let you down.
So many variables.
That you can't control, right? And this is something that you'll say is consistent in the way I like to be able to be in control, have systems and processes I can follow. I know that, and that's why I love the military because they told you what to do and how to do it. If you did it, you were successful. It's like jigsaw puzzle with life.
That's fantastic to hear. I've never heard that from a salesperson before.
And sales is just systems and processes. And I went and saw a guy called Jack Daly, and if you don't know Jack Daly, look him up. He's on Facebook and he's not on LinkedIn a lot, but you can go to jackdaly.org. And he must be 75. He's ex-captain of the US Navy, Army, and he started a whole bunch of businesses. He worked for Jack Welch with GE. Excuse me. And I went and saw him present in 2000. It might have been 99, but in 2000. And basically he just got up and said, who finds it hard to be able to replicate their sales activity? Some activities or some results are really good, some results are hand up. Yep. And he goes, okay, what you're not doing is you're not applying the systems and processes to sales. And he went and basically mapped out this, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's it. All you need to do to be successful is just follow the dots. So I'm like straight back to the army. Perfect. That's all I need. I need someone to lay out a map for me to follow. And it removed that variability in sales. And I saw him do that and thought, one day I'd love to be able to help people have that click that I just had. And then in 2010 or 2013. Then it just got to that point where I was like, I need to jump out of this ship and go and do something else that's not going to require me to manage people, but I can still talk and talk about the passion of sales. So that's how that happened.
I've never looked at, and I know that sales is obviously that consistent behaviour and all that, and putting processes in place. But I've never looked at it. I've never looked at sales like an exact science like that. I've never looked at. I know there's steps and processes, but I've never gone actually.
So is it art or science?
Well, and this is the bit. I guess for me, there's just instinctive stuff that I do that I've learned over the time that works. But I've probably never sat and written it down in terms of right, X equals Y, do that. 10 lunches equals a deal, that kind of, do you know what I mean? I've never probably looked at that. So that's really interesting. Because actually we had Scott Howe on a few weeks ago, who again, ex-military in the UK, and does a lot of leadership and organisational, but more on the kind of training and development, less sales. And he's exactly the same mindset of you in terms of what you learn and what you can take from a processes and procedures. It's kind of doing the same thing in a business, but people just forget that.
Yeah. So this goes right back to your first question. You don't like salespeople who are overly salesy, and the salespeople that are doing that don't understand the value that they bring to the conversation that they're having with the client. So what they do is they ramp up the rapport, right? Because we know that the more that you like me, the chances are that you're going to buy your thing or the thing from me. So in those situations, people are just competing to be the person that they choose a product from. They're not actually consulting to say, these are the product ranges that you need to buy. So when someone comes, so if you use the car as an example, so does somebody walk onto a lot and go, I can't decide whether I need a C200, a GLC 250 or whether I want an E55, right? They're three very different cars.
Very much so.
Right?
Yeah.
So when that's already done, you know what I mean? But in a B2B or a business space, you might say, look, I've got a transport issue. Who do I go and talk to figure out what's going to be the best vehicle for me? And in a B2C space, you walk into a dealership and you're like, I want to try and find a dealership that's going to look after me and give me the best price on a E55, right? You already know you want an E55. You've already been online. You've configured your car. You've made it white. You've changed the wheels. Right. Well, how much is it with the bigger engine?
Exactly how everyone does that. Tick all the boxes.
Too much.
OPTs. Exactly.
Let's go back a few. So, but they've done that. So the purchasing decision has predominantly been made. It's just about who are they going to spend the money with. So the rep in some of those B2C instances is like, how can I make sure that Jonathan, if he's the customer, is going to spend the money with me rather than with you? So if I tip on the fake rapport and try and make Jonathan like me, hey, nice shoes. Oh, I see you go for, this football team, or, oh, you're English. What's your favourite soccer team? And whatever you say, I'm going to say, yeah, I know them, right? Because you're going to try and increase the level of similarity. And we know that if you have a higher level of similarity, you're more likely to like someone. And in that in those exchanges, then you're more likely to give that person your money.
So you use the word fake rapport.
Well, they're just looking to try and they're, when I say fake rapport, is they're trying to build a level of similarity so that level of likeness it's not, so that's behavioural science. So you and I had a good conversation when we walked in. We haven't met at all. What did I do deliberately? Highlighted something that we had in common that I knew you would like. Right. So it's really easy for me.
Nice. Oh my God, I got sold to.
So I know Jonathan already, right? And I already like him. Right? And we've had lots of conversations online, offline, right? Easy as. So the person that was going to be the difficult part of this deal is you. But I knew that we had some similarities, right? We have a friend who's dear to us both.
Exactly.
Okay, for multiple reasons. So I really like the guy. You like the guy. Plus he's got commercial outcomes for you. And he had a commercial outcome for me. So I knew, well, that's the trigger point. If I just walk in there and start talking about that, how can you not like me?
Yeah, wow. Nice. Well, you're very charismatic. So, it was awesome. As soon as it came in, I was like, this is a great guy. This isn't going to be hard at all. And then I felt really bad for not liking salespeople. But I must say, you talk about process within sales. For me, that I'm an analytical guy, right? So I come from a technical background. So to hear sales be put through, processes and procedures like you say, it's very refreshing for me, Because I know I say, salespeople are very regiment, which is like a process that they're following. But if sometimes I feel like they just follow that one process that they know, and it's so rigid and they can't sort of go outside of it. So I do appreciate this, the sort of the process part of it, but I think you need to be dynamic and moving around it and stuff like that as well. That I feel that, I don't know, sales, some people just lazy in terms of how they apply themselves to sales. I don't know.
Well, so I think the other challenge is that there's this mismatch in most sales conversations, right? Jonathan's got the money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the salesperson, right? Jonathan owns the power, right? So we enter, when I say we, salespeople, enter into the relationships here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Jonathan's got the cash.
Yep.
I want the cash. So what we need to do is actually go, Jonathan's got the cash. I need to demonstrate that I actually don't need the cash, or I'm just as important as what Jonathan is. And Jonathan is going to spend his cash the wrong way if he doesn't talk to me, if he doesn't get my insights. So when you can get to a point of understanding how much value you bring as a salesperson to the interaction, okay, you stop being that needy person. So that's why you'll see people, you engage with salespeople and they'll give you information, and when you think about it, you think that's actually detrimental to them getting a sale. But the trust level goes through the roof, right? And because they're actually just trying to help you make the best purchasing decision. So when somebody does that, okay, rather than trying to be the person that you're going to spend the money with, when they focus on the outcomes, the genuine outcomes of the customer, okay, then that level of neediness decreases, even though it rises, and you enter into those conversations as a peer.
Yeah. See, I believe in that. Sometimes I believe that, the salesperson and the product and the person that wants to buy it, right? The salesperson's the only person that's in the way. The person's come in because they want to buy the product, and then there's a salesperson there that's in the way.
Yep.
So I think, fulfilling that person's needs rather than just looking at, like person here, cash here, I want that cash. It's rather facilitating that person, and taking them on that journey and then giving them that product rather than just going straight for the cash. It should be all about qualifying that person to be able to get that sort of product. But yeah, I feel, sometimes the salesperson gets in the way of actually that transaction.
Yep. Well, and I'd say that's in a lot of cases, that's because the salesperson hasn't realised the value that they bring into the interaction. And so what they're doing is they're basically coming in as a roadblock or as a brochure holder.
Yeah.
So that they can try and attach themselves to the purchase.
Yeah.
Right. So if we use cars as an example about the way we used to buy cars, you used to have to go to the dealership and say, hey, I think I want a XYZ. What colours do they come in? Because the only way you could find out was when you got the brochure with the colour map on it, right? What's the engine configuration? No, it's going to come in a 6. Can I get an 8? That sort of stuff. And how much is that going to cost? You couldn't get that stuff on the web. So then you had to sit down and have a conversation, and then salespeople would shoot themselves in the foot by saying, well, how much money do you have? Instead of saying it's $48,952, let's use that as a baseline. They go, well, how much money have you got?
So it's harder to ask for what their budget is. Is that a wrong thing to do? Saying how much cash you got, and then I can sort of steer you into options and stuff like that.
Well, you shouldn't. So it depends on what you're buying. So if you're buying something that's a fixed price, like cars are genuinely a fixed price, right? So if they come off the, in the olden days before the internet, I'm sure they probably charged people $55,000 for a $48,000 car if they could.
Hundy P. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
But this undoes trust, right? So then when you find out that you've bought a car for $55,000 and you could have got it for $48,952, are you going to go back there?
No, you feel like feel like you've been done by.
And you're going to tell you're either not going to tell anyone because you're ashamed, or you're going to tell everyone, don't go there.
Yeah, exactly. Why? Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but if the salesperson has gone, look, let me help you get the right car, are you going to tell everybody about that? You're going to go and see Jonathan. He's the best car.
So with the education level now for consumers or for people that are buying, anything, is the need for a salesman sort of diminishing, or is it getting more necessary now because you're not only selling a product, you're selling value, or you're selling a service?
Well, you're a consumer. What do you think?
I think it depends. Honestly, so if I was buying a car, I'd want to go for that whole sales experience, touch, feel, look at the car, sit down in configurator, spec up my car. Like, I love that stuff. But sometimes I feel like customers have come in now, they're too, you know, they know what they want. Like I've seen it. Like people come in and are like, I want this, this, and that. You know, and then they kind of get frustrated that there's a salesperson there. It's like, no, I just want this. I just want this. I just want this. I don't know. For me, I see I'm a different person compared to what I see other people. Or am I?
Mate, we're all different. We all like a different experience.
I
when
like
we
to
buy
be
stuff.
taken on that journey, but I know some people don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can buy Teslas and everything else without seeing anybody.
Yeah, exactly. You can buy them online now.
We have to, I think. I don't.
Yeah.
Oh,
No. If you go in, they bring up a computer and say, "Here you go, just buy it online" or something like that.
So a kiosk. So instead of sitting at home and ordering it, you can catch the train into town and go
use
do
their
it on somebody
computer.
else's computer.
It's like the Macca's thing now.
Yeah.
It's like I think it's like that. You just go in there. There's a big, like, massive tablet. You just choose what
Interesting.
you want.
Yeah. So you know what? And when you go to McDonald's, do you use a kiosk or walk up to the thing?
If there's
to
no
the counter.
line, I'll go to the counter. If there's a massive line, I'll just use the kiosk. Yeah. And because I just don't like waiting.
I feel like Mark is dying to be taking notes while speaking to you. Do you want a notepad, buddy?
No.
Oh, why am I getting unpacked here?
Mate, you've already been sold to this morning. Now we're digging deep.
So I think the answer is if most transactions now, a significant amount of more of them have done without the salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just a brochure holder, if you're just showing people stuff that's readily available and can bring nothing further, you know, like if you can't say to me, don't buy that, it's not going to be right for you, and these are the problems you're going to have, okay, or do buy this or whatever the case, or buy that, but make sure you put this on, whatever product, service, software it is. If you can't do that, then you're just a brochure holder, and you're not. You're right. You're standing in the way. You're adding an unnecessary step, so everybody will look to remove that step. Okay. So that's why salespeople are now getting involved in that sales process significantly later, and that's a real challenge because people then make the wrong decision. Believe it. So if you're buying software or something like that, commercial software to run your business, and you think, let's try and sidestep the salesperson, so we'll just go all the way through and just buy it online, and then you get the wrong one, right? You're going to have to do the whole process again.
Yeah.
And the poor old salesperson has probably sold a software program to a business your size with the same amount of people hundreds of times. So there's a whole bucket of stuff they know that they could make your life heaps easier with the implementation of.
Yeah. Oh, look, I agree. Especially coming from the automotive industry, I know salespeople are there to help because they genuinely do know more than a consumer. You know, well, they should. I don't know. Should they? Should the salesman just be good at selling themselves or selling a product?
I think they've got to be experts.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not about selling yourself. So I think you need to understand how human psychology works so that you can increase the level of likeness, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I don't. I'm a technician.
So well, that's just human behavior. So, right. So you need to be aware. Think about it the other way. If I know that creating similarity is going to make it more likely that you're going to like me and therefore give me your money, if I don't want to do that, I should at least be conscious of the fact that I should limit any differences. Because if I highlight the differences, I'm going to make it significantly more likely that you won't like me.
Okay.
And then you won't feel comfortable. And if you don't like me and you don't feel comfortable, you're not going to give me information. And I need the information in order to tell you that the car's wrong size, the engine's the wrong size, that you can't tow a boat with it. And if you don't feel comfortable enough to do that, I can't then give you the details. Like if you don't give me the information, if you don't tell me that you want to tow a boat with a car, for example, then I can't tell you that the 4-cylinder is not going to do it.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
So I need to get you as a salesperson to a point where you're comfortable enough to give me the right information.
Yeah.
And that could include, to go back to your, how much money have I really got?
Yeah.
I'm looking at a $60,000 car, but I've come with, I've really only got 50 and I'm hoping that there's some sort of crazy deal.
Yeah.
The sooner I can get that out of you, I can go, okay, so we need to be not looking at brand new cars. We have got some vehicles that are got 5,000, 4,000 Ks, whatever the case may be.
Okay.
Yep.
I think to build on that, I think that depending on what you're buying, the salesperson, to your point, Mark, is that trusted expert. So you can get the information on the internet, whatever you're buying, whether it's clothing, software, you can get the information. It's the application, it's the experience that I think it's almost like the seasoning on the steak, right? That's what the salesperson should be bringing to the experience. Great. Okay. Well, I see you want that car, but hang on a minute. I've just noticed you've got 3 kids. Why are you getting a 2-seater convertible? So it's
great option.
It's the application. Great option, absolutely. Yeah, because I'm going to go for a drive of my own. But I think that's what the sales that process should bring, in terms of the experience. And I also think that you get a lot of people, and I'm one of them, they prefer the story. They prefer the engagement. I mean, I don't buy clothes online. We don't buy booze online. We'll buy wine from a cellar door. We'll buy clothes from a shop. We when we eat out, we tend to be sat at a table and served. We don't go to kind of the buffet style because we like the experience. So I think you're always going to get that as well, just from different people.
Yep.
Do you think sales is still a dirty word?
Unfortunately, I think it is, but there's a lot of people, including me, trying to clean it up. Yep. So and what I mean by that is because if you're one of these old school salespeople, right, you literally don't bring any value to the transaction.
Yeah.
And so we're going to see an increase in technology, digital sales. Like more and more people are buying stuff online. You're not, but that's okay. Lots of people are. Lots of people aren't going to David Jones. They're just buying their stuff and it turns up at their front door. So we were alleviating a whole bunch of more transactional types of sales. And it's a real cliche, but so many sales trainers will start a session by saying, put your hand up if you left school with the aim of being in sales. Right? Nobody ever does that. Everyone falls into sales. But I think that in a short period of time, in the next 4 or 5 years, you're going to find that sales will become such a lot more professional. In the USA, there's 152 universities that now give a degree in sales. There's none here yet.
Yeah.
So I think when when you have to do the same amount of work to be a doctor of some description or an accountant or a lawyer or whatever as what you do to be a sales professional, people will take that a little bit more seriously.
Yeah.
So why is why is sales such a sort of an attractive profession for you? Why do you like it so much? What is the big buzz about sales?
So it sounds like a bit of a cliche, but helping people get what they want is actually really cool.
Okay.
So I think you need to be a bit of a servant, right? So if you want to help people get what they want and get the best results, then I think it's a great job for you. It's very rarely is it a show pony sales. So if you say sales, you're thinking about car salesman, for example, or the real estate agent guy,
Wolf of Wall Street,
that sort of stuff. But that's like a 1%. Most people are increasingly very analytical, right? So, and the research that they've done over the last 3 or 4 years says that the extroverts, the super charismatic guys, are actually the worst salespeople.
Okay.
The best salespeople are analytical, introverted, that come to conversations very deliberately. They don't walk into a room and take over the room, and they're much more considered because they're working now on that bringing value and being a partner rather than just being, the charismatic person in the room. Yeah.
Okay. What about you, John?
Well, I'm out. If that's the case. Well, what do I like about sales?
Yeah. Why do you do it? Why do you choose that as a profession? What do you love so much about it?
Yeah, they're funny. I mean, for me, not too dissimilar to Mark, really, but my dad has a commercial vehicle spares business called Carmichael Components in the UK.
Hashtag.
Because he likes cars and his name's Michael. That's how the business name came up. But I'd just go and spend some time with him on a Saturday morning in the warehouse and would just listen to him on the phone. And he was always just helping, to Mark's point, he was always just helping his customers. They needed some parts. He would find them or he would have them in the warehouse and then sell them on and go from there. And I just liked that. And then I just remember him just always solving the problem. And then even in actually kind of our family circle and in our friendship circle, people would come to Dad and go, hey, I need this or I need that. And he'd be like, cool, I can sort that out for you, Nothing shady on it. He just had the network and the connections. And I just really enjoyed that. And then coming to Australia with no network, I had to build a network very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And working in foreign exchange, that's such a small part of lots and lots of processes, from all over the world, and you meet people all over the world, and that was it for me. So I'm probably in a very fortunate position where I'm helping someone with a transaction, which be commercial or personal, but there's other parts of that journey that they would go on. Yeah. So if I can solve those other problems as well, then people are always going to come to me. But ultimately, I love helping people.
After hearing that, we're very similar, I suppose. Like I saw a service, you guys saw products. You guys want to help people. That's what service is. We're there to help people. So yeah, it's kind of refreshing that those two worlds are very quite similar.
But this is where you're quite interesting in the automotive world because you're after service. So you have a sales team that sell the product, yet
We sell.
I've already bought the car and then you're servicing the car. And so you're building value and creating value on that after sales side of things. So that's interesting in your space that I've observed anyway.
So the absolute best piece of advice I was given as an early salesperson was stop trying to find the sale. Just go out and help people.
Yeah.
That's it.
Completely
and that sale
agree.
will come from that.
Completely
So
agree.
just look for people who have got that you suspect have the problem that you solve. So, for example, let's use mine as an example. So I look for people, the sales managers that look like their business is not going great or they've got a lot of employees coming on or maybe they've got a lot of employees coming off. I can see leaving. I think, okay, they've got high churn. Maybe they've had something happen in their business where to me, it looks like they need to ramp up sales.
Yep.
So I reach out and go, John, for these reasons, right? It looks like you've got to focus on new business. Can I give you some resources to help you get your team up to speed more quickly? And he's like, yeah, great. So what can you send me? I said, well, what do you want? I've got books, templates, and I'll send something across. And then he goes, well, this is great. How do I implement some of this stuff? And so within a short period of time, then he goes, well, so is this something that you could help me with? So, and what sort of budget will we need for that? And they go, well, yeah. So you just basically start consulting without signing the document because you just go, looks like you've got these problems. I help people with these problems. Do you need some help? Here's some stuff I can give you that'll help out. So it's just, it's like if you saw a really nice car, a nice Maserati or a car that was you were an owner that you didn't recognise, you'd probably go up to him in the street, I would hope, and say, love the car, where do you live?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And you go, look, if you ever need help, I specialise in this area, is that selling? Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it is.
I think everybody's a salesperson, male, female.
I hear that a lot.
We're all a sales. We're all in sales. We don't like to say that because everyone thinks sales is a dirty word, but actually every employee is in sales.
Yep.
And actually, even if you're not employed, you're still at some point selling your own personal brand.
Yeah. And I think there's a real challenge actually for the technology, the people that are in tech or, back of house admin that don't think they're in sales.
Yeah.
Because then when I ring up and say, hey, you haven't paid my invoice, or hey, I think I've paid the wrong invoice. And if those people don't think they're in sales, the way they treat me is going to be.
That is true. Yeah.
So if they go, well, just send me an email and I'll get to it next week. You're like, no, I'm on the phone now. Can't you just stop doing whatever you're doing? I'm your customer.
Yeah, exactly.
And say, oh yeah, you paid the wrong invoice. Do you want me to pay, move it? When people don't do that, it reflects badly on the entire business.
So how do you? So if you're a sales team or a salesperson has been underperforming, how do you motivate a salesperson that isn't hitting those numbers?
Geez, that's a big question.
Is that a big to unpack? Yeah.
So look, what you need to do is make sure that the salesperson's mindset, okay, is aligned with the business goals. Or the business performance goals, right? So if the salesperson's doing 2 of something and you need them to be doing 10 of something, you need to figure out and be brutally blunt with that salesperson about what's going to happen if they continue to be 2, but what also equally as powerful will happen if they do 10, and what that means not only for them as in you won't get the sack, but what are you going to do when you get 10? So if you make your budget and you get an extra $15,000, what are you going to do with it? So if you're a salesperson, I say, if I gave you 15, 50, 500 grand, depending where you are in the sales, but if I gave you 50 grand today, what would you do with it? If you can't answer that straight away, then you don't have a big enough drive, right? You need to know what it is that you're going to do with, you should already be visualizing, my target is X and I'm going to get $15,000 by doing that. I'm buying a new bike. I'm taking the kids to Disneyland.
I love how you said you're buying a new bike. That's exactly what I was just thinking.
So that's really interesting. That's really interesting. So if you're in sales, have you always got to be motivated by money?
No. So that was the really easy example. So it could be maybe I've got more time with my kids. Maybe it could be that I get promoted. Right. And it's the sales manager's job to tie that motivation to the company's goals. Yeah. Because you can't have, and maybe somebody goes, you know what, I don't care if I only make $28,000 a year and I hit 2 all the time. So then as a sales manager, you needed to go, do I leave that as an outlier or do I, get rid of them because they're going to drag the rest of the team down?
Yeah.
So we see a lot of people talking about the power of culture, and that's because people will rise and fall with their environment. So environment's very, very powerful. If you go into an organisation and everyone's reaching their targets and the targets are 10 and 9 out of the 10 salespeople are hitting their targets, you don't want to be the 10th person, even if it's a 9, right? And everyone else is getting 11, you know, right? So you want to bust your backside to make sure you're getting 10. If everyone's getting 7, right, and you're getting 6, doesn't feel so bad.
Yeah,
because everyone's missing their number.
yeah, exactly.
So that's why this culture piece is such a popular
I think
thing.
culture's massive. You know.
It's that
I'm big
old,
on it.
You are the standard you walk past. That's,
Yeah, exactly.
that sort
I
of thing.
use that as well. You know, the standards you walk past are the standards
Is
you
your
accept.
workshop clean or dirty?
I could show you a picture.
It's cleaner.
spotless.
It's cleaner than this apartment. It's ridiculous.
I'll show you a picture later.
Yeah, okay. Why is that? That's because it's a standard that you've decided.
100%. It reflects not only that. Like we sort of work out our workshop into sections of, you know, that technician owns that bay, and it's a reflection of them as well.
So what would happen if one of your technicians was grubby and messy and didn't live up to their
Insubordinance would not be tolerated. No.
So how is that performance any difference to a sales performance?
No, you're right. You're right. No, but to tell you, like they won't because of the culture. So everyone knows there's sort of the standard that they have to work to. And we work with ultra luxury or high performance and stuff like that. So it's sort of expected, but sometimes we do get technicians when they first start, they're a little bit rough around the edges, but they really rise really quickly because they can see around, like, oh, wow, this place looks, it's surgical. That's how clean it is. And so, yeah, they sort of, cleanliness is really something that's nutted out really quickly. I find it's got to do with the culture as well. So, yeah, I totally agree with you on the culture piece.
So what happens with salespeople is they'll self-select out. Right? So they get into that environment and they're like, I'm running at 2. The whole business is running at 10. They'll use words like too high pressure, no work-life balance, and they'll bail and they'll go and get another job.
Yeah.
So
I've heard all of those things.
So what have you seen? Because I saw on your LinkedIn that you've worked with people like Coca-Cola, News Corp, Tyro Pay, Sydney Swans, and what have you seen? Is it all a similar vibe when you go into when it's sales teams? Are they all saying those same things, or have you noticed different things over the years, be it values, culture, maybe REM packages? Like what have your observations been and how have you fixed them?
So the number one challenge, and I think this is what you're asking, the biggest challenge for most sales organisations that rely on salespeople to sell, is that salespeople aren't having enough conversations enough of the time. So they're not having enough valuable conversations enough of the time. So and there's a difference there, but they're not talking to the right people enough to start the right level of conversation. So that's the biggest challenge. And the reason why that isn't happening could be one of many. But typically it's they don't know how to come to the conversation as a peer. So remember that example we used before?
Yep.
So what they do is they revert to spammy type messages or spammy salesy type behavior because that's the only strategy that they've got left. So what is spam? Spam is any message that you receive that you didn't want.
Or meat from a tin in the UK.
Correct. or from the military. I'm pretty sure we had tins of spam in my ration packs back in the day. But the reality is spam could be, so if I've signed up for David Jones or, an email and then decide that I don't want that, even though legally that's not spam, if I get an email from them 2 weeks later and I don't want it and delete it, it's just not, it's not relevant. It's spam.
So people put out spam as well when they meet someone.
Yeah. So instead of figuring out, they don't have a credible reason to start a conversation, right? So they don't understand how can I easily go and start a conversation with Jonathan about something that he's going to find of value. So they send out cheesy messages like, let me save you some time and money.
Yeah.
And the sales manager goes, Adriano, you've only done 2, you need to do 10, do 8 more calls. Yeah. So you ring people up out of the list, the CRM or whatever, and go, hey man, bring your car into us because we're going to make it go faster and we'll do it cheaper. And they're like, I don't want someone cheap on my car.
Where did this come from as well? Like it's weird. Yeah.
Yeah, because they haven't taken the time to figure out, what is the credible reason to start a conversation
and bringing value to that conversation as well. I suppose, yeah.
So how have you helped businesses implement that? How do you bring in your experience and your templates and stuff to help them have better conversations?
So it's basically a 5-step process, but we start with that that mindset piece. Help the salespeople understand what the value is that the business brings to their clients, because there has to be some value there. Otherwise, nobody would buy anything.
Yep.
Right? Why would you part your money for something? So somebody's
Makes total
buying.
sense.
So somebody's buying it, and someone's getting some value out of it. So what are they getting the value from? What problems are you solving? Then understand very clearly about the value that you bring, where the client's needs intersects with the products or the services that you supply. So you just need to be an expert at where they cross over. Do you know what I mean? So you don't need to be an expert on everything about, if you're selling accounting software, you don't need to be an expert in accounting. You just need to be an expert at what the problems are that you're
So those touch points.
So if an accountant is spending too much time trying to invoice stuff, if they have to stay back on Friday night and get, can you say to them, hey, my guess is, at least once a month you're staying back on Friday night at 7 o'clock, sending out all these invoices because all the work that your juniors have done are still backlogged in the CRM and hasn't been sent out. Yes. Would you like to solve that? Yes. Okay. Can I show you how to do that? Like which is different to saying, do you want some software?
Yeah.
But what happens is most people go, well, what do you use? What software are you using? Do you want to change? No, I don't want to change because it sounds like a pain.
Yeah.
Yep. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. It's like identifying what they actually need. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which enables you to then build the trust, build the rapport, and then have the conversation. So you're having a better conversation straight away because you're familiar with the challenges they go through.
And you don't feel like a salesperson, you feel like an expert.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you ring somebody up, you're not needy, you're not desperate. So all that let me save you time and money disappears because you don't want clients that want to save time and money.
Yep.
You want clients that want a good solution.
Yep.
So then the second piece is, how can you find more of those perfect clients? Okay. So if I'm a single accountant that works from home, I probably don't need your software. I probably need to have 2 or 3 or 4 people in my business, right? So, okay, great. So we now need to know that we look for accountants that have got 5 people in it, in their 5 partners or a team of 5. Where are they going to be located? How do we find them? Well, they're probably not going to be the big accounting firms. So we can start knocking it down and getting to a really sharp niche that we can start to outreach. And the best way to do that is just to go back to your past customers and figure out what they look like, how they came to you in the first, how did they find you, or how did you find them in the first instance, and go back there.
Yeah.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier on, and I think it was a throwaway comment, but I'm quite interested to hear your thoughts on this. Lists, buying databases. What's your thoughts on that? Businesses still buying those old school lists?
So I'm actually working with 2 clients at the moment. We're just buying lists. So, look, my business is a bit different. So I have my own lists that I've generated over time,
right,
for businesses that I want to work with and I'd prefer to work with. But I know that doesn't suit everybody. So people need a bunch of lists. And the list farming business is getting better, but people typically don't dissect it enough. So to use those examples, they go, here's a list of accountants. They give them to their people.
Go with them now.
Go.
Want that done by the end of the week. Go.
So then they're calling people with, 25 accountants and they're like, no, mate, I don't have that problem. And why would they? Because they'd have somebody just doing invoicing. Right? There's no one staying home doing invoicing. Staying back doing invoicing. And then they're also calling the people with 1 or 2. So you go, there's a list of accountants. Great. But they're not all our perfect clients. Yes, we've sold some software to 1 and 2 people. Yes, we've sold our software to a couple of the big operators. But most of our business comes from this niche. I'll really make this example come alive, haven't I? So let's just concentrate in the accounting space, with 5 to 10 accountants, probably, and they're probably all going to be called, Mark McInnes Accounting and Associates, because that's grown. They're probably all going to be located in Sydney, Brisbane or Melbourne. So you chunk that list right down so that your talking point has got that the power when you ring up.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the spam piece, right? So if you ring a large organisation and say, we're helping people with their invoicing, they're like, well, I don't have an invoicing problem.
Yeah.
So do you think you can communicate too much, or is it the quality of the communication that needs to be really nutted out?
Good, both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think most salespeople throw everything at the wall to try and make sure that they get their meeting or they get your attention. When in actual fact, most people should just go, you know what, I'm very confident this is important to you. And this is why you should talk to me. So just one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you could say, look, I think that these are probably the 3 challenges you're having. My guess is you're having at least one of those. But you see those pitchy emails that come through and they're really, really long, and they say, we work with these organisations and we help you do this and we save money and we'll save you time.
Template.
Yeah. But they're trying to, what they're doing is they go, what are the 16 things or the 5 things or the 10 things that we've got going for us? Put that in an email and send it to everybody, and someone's going to find it attractive. That's spam.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what people's outreach typically is. Whereas if you can go, so instead of sending that out to 1,500 people to try and generate 3 conversations, I'd say, how can you send out 30 emails who you know are going to have that problem and start 3 conversations? Because then you've still got 1,470 emails left.
Yeah, it's true.
And you don't have 1,470 people who hate you.
I'm learning so much.
Well, and that's a piece actually on the brand reputation and the brand damage. So I listened to one of your podcasts the other day, the Boss podcast, Best of Social Selling.
Yep.
I like it. Thank you for putting it together. I want to talk about what social selling is, because I think it's a new term and not many people might know what it was. But I didn't realize this episode was around the LinkedIn automation of the inbox. I didn't even know that existed.
Right. Okay.
So I kind of learned something new there as well. I'm keen to get your thoughts on there, because for me, LinkedIn is, you're very visible on LinkedIn for people that use it. You can see who your mutual connections are. You've got a photo of yourself. You've got, your brand of the company you work for. And for me, it was surprising to hear that people were just using that and just automating in mails. Where for me, you're very exposed. So back in the day of just sending out spam, you've just got your email, right? And that could just be accounts@markmcguinnessaccounting.com, So, I found that quite challenging, because for me, I use LinkedIn to really build and generate and nurture relationships, not purely just on that spam stuff. So I found that quite, not conflicting, but it didn't make sense for me as an operating rhythm.
Yeah,
Have I opened up a can of worms?
Yeah. Yeah, so marketers are not salespeople typically, but they're part of the sales function in that they're trying to drive leads. They're trying to drive conversations, right? So everybody wants a valuable conversation with somebody who wants the product or service that we're about to sell or we're trying to sell. Marketing is trying to generate as many of those conversations, the start of many of those conversations as possible. And its theory is we'll send out a whole bunch of emails, and a very small percentage of people will respond, and that will take those very small percentage of people and present them to a sales team. That's just
numbers game.
That's just So that's just how marketing works. And so marketing has helped ruin, along with salespeople, that bulk message system. So now you realise that most of the messages that we get aren't actually designed for us at all.
Yeah.
And that's why we can comfortably sit there and see an email come in and go delete.
Yeah, totally.
Because what happens if you delete it? Nothing.
Yeah.
No, there's no consequence, right? And what are you thinking? If it's really important, they're probably going to reach out again.
Yeah.
Right? So even those instances where you go, is that for me really? Or we'll just get rid of it.
Yeah.
So
that's true. They've taken advantage of that whole sort of accessibility.
Yeah.
And now it's true. A lot of the time, I'll just delete it. I know straight away from the title.
Yeah.
10% of
But if you think the email is direct for you, designed specifically for you, and it's automated, do you care? Like if you got an email that you went, oh, okay, they've taken the time to write to me and sent back, there's a chance that could be automated.
Yeah, true.
If you don't
kind of
know
see
it.
through it.
Yeah, I don't know. They always. Well, I can tell you that we don't always see through.
Yeah.
So salespeople take that approach, that marketing approach to LinkedIn, and you'll see a lot of the people that talk about that are marketers on LinkedIn, and they're happy. So in sales, you have to be prepared to have a certain amount of swings and misses. Oh, we swing more than we hit.
My God, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like in cricket, you hit nearly every ball, right? Right. Where in
I was always good at the match tees. I mean, I didn't really.
Where baseball, you swing and miss most times.
Yeah.
Right. So that's more like sales, right? You're going to try and open more conversations than what you're going to be successful in. So if you're trying to get a bat of, hit every single pitch that comes at you, or hit every single one straight between the eye, it's going to be really difficult. So yeah, you have to accept that some of the outreach that you do is not going to be successful. And then and then if you accept that, then you go, well, hang on a second. If I'm trying to start 3 conversations and getting one, and that's taken a bunch of time and a bit of research, what about if I just automated it and tried to speak to 10 and got one? Because then if it's automated, I don't need to do it. But of course, the further that you widen the net, the less relevant the message is, and the more it looks like spam.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge with automation. Automation is cool. So if I've connected to 15 people, I've probably connected to maybe 25 people this week, right? So I will send them all the same message. So I will automate that.
So you reached out and connected to them, or they've connected with you?
Won't matter.
Right, okay.
Okay, so the first piece of interaction on that connection would be, hey, thanks for connecting, or if they've sent me a connection request, I go, hey, thanks for the ad, whatever. So very, very personal.
Yeah.
If there's some levels of similarity, if I can see that they're connected to you, I say, hey, I see you've worked with John, or whatever the case may be. But then at the end of the week, I go, hey, because we connected this week, you probably want to know what our connection is going to be worth to you. Here's 3 ways you can get great information from me for nothing. So that's automated because that's the same message I'm sending to everybody. It's not genuine. It's not being ungenuine. It's genuine. But why would I send that 25 times individually?
Yeah.
I'm going to test that out later. I'm going to add you on LinkedIn.
Well, I probably won't accept you because you're outside of my target market.
Oh, sorry.
Just make sure
See, I
though.
thought we had rapport.
Make sure you put a message on it. Don't just click connect. Make sure you put a message on there.
Correct.
It's
Just
one of
put a
my
picture of me.
frustrations.
Yeah. So if you said, hey, Mark, thanks for coming on the podcast, I think we should connect, then it'd be pretty hard for me to say no.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. Let me just write
Plus,
that down.
mate, you've got a great picture as well. So
I do.
So if you just came up as a mechanic business owner, I'd be like, well, why would I connect with this guy?
Yeah, it's true.
Um,
Because you like cars.
I actually don't.
Oh, spewing. We're drifting further and further apart now. It started off so well.
But see, I wasn't going to walk in here and say, I haven't owned a car for 5 years, and the last car that I did own was a bucket of bolts and was like a Ford Territory that I just, was like a taxi. And I was actually really happy with that. Because I know that you're a car guy, and that would just create a wall of difference. Instead, I could go, well, you know what? I know you're going to know that person, right?
Yeah.
And so let's start with that rather than, here you're a car guy and, mate, I'm more into bikes.
I'm into bikes as well, but motorbikes.
Yeah, I'm in both, push bikes and motorbikes.
Oh, nice,
yeah.
nice.
So,
We'll have that conversation later then.
so for the layman, what is social selling?
social selling is using social channels to support your sales activities. So to help you find the right people, start conversations with your customers, and then start the sales process, if you like. It does happen, but it's very rarely that you're going to be able to sell somebody on social. And again, people typically use social badly. When they use social badly is they're trying to shortcut that process and say, hey, here's Jonathan, he's in a certain age group, he's in a certain location. You know, if you need help with your mortgage, grab some date in my automatic calendar. And so they go straight to that ask. So that's where it gets a bad rap.
Is it old school now to try and sell someone through social? Because like for our brands that we have, we never try and sell anything. It's never saying buy this for this much, or it's about we sort of sell. And how cliche this sounds, like sell a dream or sell a lifestyle, rather than saying no, buy here, click here to buy here.
So I think you've got to give people an easy pathway to become customers. So if you've got something that's a low value or easy to buy, then that's great. So for example, people can buy my book from my website. So I know that there's a high level of commitment to learning from me if they've done that. It's a pretty small way to do that when you consider what my consulting fees are.
Yep.
But it gives me the right to then call them up and go, this person's obviously interested in increasing their performance or their team's performance. It's a couple of bucks. Right? So I'm happy to advertise though that book as on social.
Yeah.
They talk about you should ask 1 in 6. So if you have social media campaign, whatever it is, you should have some way to promote your products and services 1 in 5 or 6 posts.
Okay.
So if you do any more than that, you just become an advert.
Yeah.
If you do it any less than that, you're not actually trying to drive any conversion.
Right. Say that again. Say that again.
So it's the posting strategy is 4-1-1, and so you should post 4 bits of things that are interesting about your industry or about your role or whatever. So I post lots of stuff about how salespeople can be better, and sometimes I actually link to other sales trainers or content from Salesforce or whatever the case may be. And it's all just talking about being better in sales.
Yep.
one of those should be a personal look into my life. So, for example, if we took a photo snapshot of this, I could post this on social and say, hey, caught up with the guys, great chat. Feel free, go to the YouTube and check it out. So that's not selling something, and they get an input, a look into what I look like outside of Monday to Friday. And then the sixth one would be, buy my course here. Hey, if you need some consulting, buy a book.
Okay.
You know, something, so a more solid pitch, or it might be sign up for a webinar or whatever the case may be.
So going off topic a bit, you've written a book. How does one write a book? Like, how do you start writing and remember everything that you've been taught or everything that you've learned? How do you sort of work out the lineage of writing a book? Like, is this just, not that I want to write a book, but I'm just very interested in how you sort of get your thoughts down to, you know, something.
It's actually a really good question. So I still have a very good editor. So that makes it Brian Szabo, fantastic. And as it turns out, you just start writing and then give it to them, and then they come back and say, yes, okay, there's something in that, but your structure's all over the place, and you basically have to write 2.5 times more than what they put in the book.
Okay.
So the process that I did was I just did a brain dump over months, like just typed as much stuff as I could, tried to put it in some sort of semblance. I actually spent too long doing this because I didn't realise at the time, but then gave it to them, and then they came up and went, okay, this looks like the obvious structure. I mean, the systems and processes that I talk about, like they are things that I train, so I know that anyway, but to get it all into a book, I just dumped it all into a huge manuscript and went, help.
I always wondered that. I was like, man, how can there be so many people that can write books so well? You know, like you can do it from point A to Z, you know, and go through that whole thing.
Yeah, it is a bit of it's a real task, and it's a bit like trying to find something in a huge, bag, lots of leaves on the ground or something. You know, you've got to start just putting leaves in the clearing the leaf one by one, and then as time goes on, it gets clearer and clearer, and you can start to map it out. But at the start, it's like, oh man,
it's so much information I want to get. Yeah, you need like 7 biros just to start writing it all down. Yeah,
I can imagine it's a flow there. Like, imagine if you're producing a tune, you're starting with nothing. Yeah, you might start with the kick, or you might start with the sample or something, and then it just flows. So I can imagine, Mark being kind of 20 plus years in the sales thing. You're right. I mean, brain dump's quite a nice way to put it, because I can imagine you just start writing, and then all these other ideas and all the cue cards that you've got logged because of the expert that you are just kind of start flowing. And probably the hardest thing is actually just to remember to keep writing, you know, and just then go, right, here's a shed load of information, put it in whatever order you want to put it in.
Yeah, and I think the reason why a lot of people have 2 and 3 books is because you've got a book left over.
Right, okay.
You know,
really?
Yeah. So there's so much stuff that you didn't, the editor said, no one wants to know about that. Or, you're going off on a tangent here.
Yeah.
You
must. Okay. Do you find yourself going off on a lot of tangents? Because, mate, I'm the worst for that. Half of the time I'm talking to someone, I'm having a conversation, I forget where I started, I forget where I'm ending now.
We actually wanted to do a 10-minute podcast, but we're going for an hour. So the book is called Tactical Pipeline Growth.
Yeah.
Go on. Walk us through that.
So it's a tactical way to build out pipeline to start new conversations.
So tactical is obviously very military talk as well, I get the sense.
So
did you draw on that?
Yeah, so the military was really important to me as a young man. So I joined at 19, and it was just a great experience. And I left school at year 10, struggled with year 10, didn't like it at all, wasn't a school kind of a guy at all. So the military was my college, my university, right? So that was the framework. And it was probably even just as powerful as what my parents were to me. Like in those 3+ years, I became who I am. And so in there's lots of I've used military language, like frontline sales reps, dig into the trenches. You want to target your customers and make sure you're hitting them right between the eyes. So it was,
Jesus.
like I said, when I'm talking about making sure you're speaking to the right customers, don't get a list of accountants, make sure you get the right ones and hit them right between the eyes with the right message, right? So I just used that language all the way through. So then that was where we had to make and it's tactical. So all of the training that I do is this is how you do it. It's not, I need you to go and do this. It's like,
it's not a spectrum.
This is what we need to do. I'll help you go and take action. So whereas some other consultants will be, this is what you need to do, here's a map, go and do it. I'm like, okay, this is what we need to do, here's a map, here's the scripts, let's make them together, let's make the phone calls together, let's send the emails together, let's like do all that stuff together.
So would this be good for someone starting their journey or their career in sales, or would it be good for veterans, seasoned veterans, like?
So look, I think
you and
it's excellent for. I've written it for that sort of BDM AE type role that needs
AE, account exec.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, sorry, yeah. That needs to reach out to start conversations, and they're floundering because they think that they're sending the wrong message. They're not sure. They're not having enough conversations with the right people.
Yeah.
And for organisations that need to build that out, so it's probably perfect for sales managers that have got 10 to 30 salespeople.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then talk us through the Boss podcast. How did that come about?
Best of social selling. So.
I thought that just because you back. I just thought these guys obviously back themselves. They're calling themselves the Boss Podcast.
Oh no! Okay, so that was so back in 2015, I was starting my business in 2014. 2015, it was like, how do I start conversations? Right? Where are sales managers and salespeople hanging out? LinkedIn. Right? So I'll go all in on LinkedIn, build out a profile, and started to engage people and start conversations. Started with like 450 connections, right? And just like connect, message. And at the time, LinkedIn were trying to grow Sales Navigator, which is the expensive tool on the back of Sales Navigator.
Yep.
And so they were running a Boss Best of Social Selling awards every year for the people who had the highest levels of engagement. And so John Dugan, who I was working with, I think do you know John Dugan?
Not come across John, no.
Okay, Irishman, and he was. And he was invited to go to the LinkedIn Awards. I wasn't. And I had a SSI, which is just a score, right? Which was, I think it was like 96. And his was 94. And they called him up on stage and he won the highest level of engagement in the country, and he's like, oh shit, there's a guy back at the office that's actually been killing me all year. So he won that award and we used the same systems and processes, right? So we're using human behavior. And then 2016, I won it. Continued to beat John, got an invite because they knew about me. And then they stopped having the awards. So that's where that came from, Best of Social Selling, because we were able to use the same systems and processes to get more people to say yes to our connection requests, more people to say yes to a meeting, more people to accept our in-mails. For those of you who don't know, you've got to get them accepted.
Yeah. And the SSI is the Social Selling Index.
Yeah. Yep. So that's where the name of it came from.
Yeah, okay.
But I created the pod because social was getting a really bad name. Like people were saying it was a ineffective way to sell. And it's not when you do it right. It is when you do it wrong.
Yeah. Okay. It can be, you can damage yourself and pretty quickly, can't you? If you do. Yeah.
So I wanted to give some airspace to some people that were doing it well, because there's a lot of sales consultants in the US who only want you or preach jumping on the telephone. And the telephone's great. But that strategy doesn't work in every geographical area. So, for example, in Malaysia and other parts of Asia, it's extremely rude to ring people without permission.
Yeah.
Really?
And it's actually becoming illegal later this year. I've been training people.
What?
So you actually can't. So unless you have direct permission to ring somebody, you're not allowed to. So how can you take those strategies from America and plant them into Asia when it's actually illegal? You know what I mean? Like, so I get it that these people are really openly saying, don't go on LinkedIn, you're wasting your time, you're spending too much time not generating any income. I'm like, I get that people do that, but you can't then turn around and say, do something that's illegal or that here in Australia just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I wanted to create the balance.
Yeah. And have you found that that selling in Australia is different to other parts of the world?
Yeah, absolutely.
And being a BDM is different do you find there's kind of geographical nuances?
Yeah, so the communication channels, styles, times, all that sort of thing. Yeah, absolutely. So, the UK is still a bit stiffer than what we are here. So, the way that you structure your emails and the communication channels that you would go through would be different. Here in Australia, you can get away with texting people cold a little bit. Not something you can do in the US. But in the US, people will pick up their telephone when they see a number that they don't know. People here in Australia won't do that.
Yeah.
And as I've just outlined in Asia, like it's actually it's morally poor. You're going to damage your brand and it's about to become illegal. So that's just one example. In the UAE, okay, email is more effective than text message because the way their businesses market to them is through text message. So they get so many text messages, it's become like everyone just has unread text messages that they don't even read. In Australia, 97% open rate.
Wow.
Whoa.
So you have to have this stuff in mind. You need to know this stuff
Yeah.
if you're going to go and tell a business that's got let's say they've got an office here, one in Singapore, one in San Francisco, and another one in UAE. You can't just go, this is what you need to do.
Yeah. We actually found that in our business, because when people register for our service, they get a phone call straight away, within 15 minutes of registering. And we found that in the US, the let's just call it the pickup rate, the people that answered the phone calls in the US and Singapore and Hong Kong and Australia, very, very different responses. Yep. And we had to kind of adjust accordingly. But again, if you don't know that stuff, then you just go, this country's going to fail. So.
Yeah. And the poor salesperson's going to have very low morale.
Yeah.
Let's talk networking, because I know you do a lot in the community space as well, the B2B space, and you like getting people together, a bit like myself. Do you think networking is becoming a dirty word as well, or is it a dirty word?
Yes. So in 2017, I did 102 networking events in a year because I was telling a lot of my clients, get out and if you don't have anything, go and networking. And I don't think I got a client. Maybe I did, but it was just. It was like a face-to-face version of the bad LinkedIn connection request. It was literally people turning up with like a handful of cards saying, "Hi, I'm Mark. This is what I do," and then as you'd say, "Oh, thanks," and you'd go to give them something, and they'd just walk off. Right? I've over-dramatized that, but everyone is there for what they can get out of it. So we wanted to create a space where it was the complete opposite. Yeah, come hang out, and we'll just get people to give you really valuable information. And if something else happens out of it, then that's cool. But it was just trying to generate a safe place for people to come and talk about sales and not carry the baggage that you started with, like sales. Because, salespeople want to go somewhere and go, well, how can I be better at this? What emails are working? Lots of people wouldn't know that not open email text has got a 97% open rate. Yeah. So how can we share that with inside a sales conversation without someone saying, I don't want to get a text message.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the idea. So networking is broken if you've just got to focus on driving sales. If you've got to focus on helping people, so it's the same.
Yeah. Same meat, different gravy. Yeah. Now I do love a networking event, especially with the good canapes as well. But I find my mantra when I go to a networking event is, who am I going to meet that can help my community?
Yep.
Or how can I help this person? So, and then if I get something out of it, great. But I flip my mindset from the office. So when I did your B2B meetup,
which you did very well, by the way,
met some just amazing people, and actually it was cool. I think what the platform you're creating is fantastic, because you're right. Because some cultures of businesses, I'd love to know if you've experienced this actually when you've been helping businesses. Some sales teams don't like to share. Because of the culture they have, and that could be very dog-eat-dog culture. In my team, I try to share successes, share learnings. Why didn't we close that deal, or what happened there, or how did we lose that, or actually you got that from nothing. How did you do that? So I can imagine, and what I found with this meetup you guys did was it was great to listen to other peers in the industry that we all have the same job title, be it partnerships or BDM or A or whatever. It's the same stuff. And just hear their stories and how they're overcoming challenges or how they're doing stuff. That was great for me.
Yeah. So that was exactly the point. So a lot of people weren't getting access to what was working, and we just wanted to try and find people like yourself who are experts. You're an expert at relationship management.
Thank you.
Managing relationships with your clients. So what are some of the secret sauce that you use? And we knew that with 100 people in the room, 30 of them were going to say, that's pretty cool. I can actually apply that. And the other 60 are going to go, not for me. But then the speaker we had directly after you was, at 90-degree angle. Yeah. Was talking about technology or whatever it was. Yeah. And some of the others would go, got it. Yeah. So that was what it was all about, is just trying to share stuff, because you're right. A lot of the businesses are poorly managed so that they create a situation where there's too much competition in amongst the sales teams.
Yeah. And that goes back to what you were saying earlier on about having the vision, the journey, the KPIs aligned, you know, some of maybe if it's territorial sales or, you know, everyone's got their own place or vertical or channels.
Yep.
It's about being clear on and who does what, who's who in the zoo.
Yeah, and having the rigor to do good quality deal reviews. So, you know, we lost that, what went wrong, you know, so we didn't get that deal. If we were doing that deal again, what would we do differently?
Yeah.
You know, so that's that's the same question, but asked a lot softer. So people are going to be more likely to say, well, if I had to do it differently now that I think about it, you know, I probably would have asked a few more questions so that the solution that I provided was perhaps a better fit.
Yeah. Are you seeing, I'm now conscious of your time, mate, but I've got a question. Are you seeing with any generational changes? You know, you mentioned about the kind of phone culture, you know, that kind of boiler room that you know, we joked about Wolf of Wall Street, but, you know, that phone bit, the 80s, you know, stock traders and all that. Are you seeing generational changes with the younger generation where, you know, I say we because we're young, we have been out on more social media, just more likes, that engagement hasn't been there. Are you seeing when you're speaking to companies with a younger team where there is a reluctance to maybe pick up the phone?
Yeah, absolutely.
And they want to have a relationship on email. And so how do you overcome that, or how do you coach comfort around that?
So again, it goes back to a little bit to that mindset that we talked about understanding that you're a valuable resource if you've got the right conversation starter. Okay. Right? So if you've got the credible reason, if you know that the accountants are definitely staying home on Friday night, then you've got to ask yourself, if I know that I can make it so that Jonathan can get home to his kids or his wife or his partner at 5 o'clock on a Friday instead of staying around, do I have an obligation to ring up or give Jonathan the best crack at getting home? If I'm like, well, I actually don't care about my customers, then you're not a good salesperson, right? So if you go, well, I know I'm going to make the car run better, or I know that I'm going to provide the best result for the accountant, then I have to reach out, and I'm going to reach out across multiple channels because we know that people communicate differently. So that could be on social, it could be email, it could be text message, it could be telephone. But, you know, obviously people are millennials are making decisions now. So, you know, them and Gen Z or whatever it is, you know, so they're selling to each other. So it's no longer about how's the next generation going to communicate. It's like, how are we communicating as a society now? And if we don't make those changes to suit, then you're just going to be left behind. I mean, email is incredibly inefficient. I just had somebody on my podcast who was saying that he thinks that because Microsoft now own LinkedIn, if your LinkedIn profile is not complete and has a certain score, so let's say 92 out of 100, right? So that will downgrade your ability to send emails to other people's addresses because you'll have a spam rating, you know what I mean? Like, so your activity on LinkedIn and how much credibility you've got based on that will tie into your outbox, in your Microsoft outbox. And so let's say you've got a score of 34, no picture, very little work, 24 connections. You'll only be able to send emails to info at, accounts at, help at.
That sounds very Black Mirror.
So well, you know, Microsoft spent $27 million on LinkedIn. Yeah, so how are they going to leverage? They want their money back.
Yeah,
and times two.
On LinkedIn as well. I love LinkedIn. I'm on it literally most days. Is LinkedIn only for salespeople, marketing people? Should every employee have a LinkedIn profile?
So a LinkedIn profile is your personal microsite. So, but with a business view.
Yep.
Okay. So
good addition. No holiday pictures on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's my MySpace.
So I think
who's Tom?
Most people have got their own channels, right? So and I think, you know, we don't sign up. Well, very few of us sign up for an organisation for 10 or 15, 20 years now, right? So we move through. So we need to be our own business. So a LinkedIn page gives you a really good indication of what people stand for as individuals and what they do for work. That doesn't extend to every single industry, but most people can find value on LinkedIn if they manage their feed correctly by connecting with the people so if you connected with a whole bunch of other people in your industry, right, here and overseas, you would find enormous amount of value in what was in your feed. If you connected to me and this guy, there'd be so much sales shit in there. You'd be like, I hate it. I hate LinkedIn. And this is what happens, right? Is people connect with the wrong people and then they complain about what's in their feed. So if you've got a shitty feed, it's your fault, right?
So on that then, so it's not about the number of connections, because I hear so many people pumping their chest, oh, I've got 20,000 connections, and you go, cool. For me, LinkedIn is about quality, not quantity. That's the right way to look at it, right? And I think I got that from a LinkedIn course, so... But that's the way I've always looked at it. It's not about just the number.
That's right. And so that's why I wouldn't connect when you send me a connection request, because you don't fit. So you wouldn't like what I was posting. Maybe I wouldn't. Maybe you would.
Maybe I want to learn more about sales.
It's possible, but it's not probable.
Yeah.
Okay. So I could get hit. I could get hit by lightning. That's possible. It's not probable.
Okay.
What I can tell is that if somebody's a BDM based in APAC, okay, and they work for a technology company, they're probably going to get some value out of being connected with me, right? If someone's in Canada and they're a search engine optimization marketer, they're probably not going to get a lot of value from me. Or if they're a desktop engineer of some description, because all I'm going to talk about is sales. And if we're friends, let's be friends on Facebook. Let's be friends on Twitter. That's a different view.
That's all right, man. I'm not going to add you now. It's so far out.
Awesome. Well, Mark, we're going to let you go back to your family and celebrate your wife's birthday. Thank you very much for coming in today and talking to us. Guys, let's give him a round of applause. I think you're forgetting the button, but if you want to learn a little bit more about what Mark does, check out the Boss Best of Social Selling podcast. We'll have a link to that on the page. We'll have a link to the book as well, Tactical Pipeline Growth. Connect with him on LinkedIn, but do not be generic. Maybe mention that you listen to this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Don't be generic. Mate, thank you for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I learned so much. Thank you. Cheers.